Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome here to the 23rd race of the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, as we are here live this evening at the Monster Mile known as Dover International Raceway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer, and Sam, only 4 races including tonight left until the playoffs, and we kind of got hit with a little bit of a bombshell regarding the playoff standings here for these final 4 races.
Jacob Shorba, who was locked into making it in, has actually dropped out of the series. And with him dropping out, it actually makes that bubble spot a little bit more open for these drivers that were outside looking in.
Of course, a lot of drivers right down there along that new cut line. Right now, the battle that we are currently looking at is Barry Stevens in by 24 points, Kevin Roy out by 24 points as well. That's really where it's all at, because right now everybody else, for the most part, it's got some pretty nice cushions either ahead or have quite a deficit behind that cutoff line position. But as we look forward to today's race, the BJ McLeod boys, they're back at it again. They've got the front row with Logan Helton on the pole position alongside of his teammate David Santini. But these two not exactly on a level playing field, because in qualifying, it was Logan Helton by almost a 1/10.5 faster than the 99.
Yeah, practice was something interesting to watch with seeing those BJ McLeod guys split up by one driver. That's the new driver in the one machine, and that's a new face that we haven't seen up here yet, here, Seth.
And we're going to be interested to see what Tyler Hughes is able to do in that number one machine. Of course, as you stated, with Shorba now out of the one car, he forfeits all the points and the victory as far as locking himself into playoffs that he had earlier on this season. Tyler Hughes, he starts with a 0 in the points column. He's going to have to rely on these 4 races to maybe see if he can win his way into the playoffs. I'm not sure if with a limited 4 starts here, if he would actually be able to lock himself into a playoff spot or not.
Yeah, we're not completely sure just yet. We'll for sure know by the next race, but yeah, the one car situation it's a little bit different from what we've been seeing throughout the season, because we've been seeing a lot of replacement drivers that come in to sub in for week to week sometimes, but this is a complete driver swap out. That's why those points and the win have been dropped for the one machine.
180 laps here tonight at Dover International, and you talked about this before we came onto the air. Dover's one of those tracks that is a tire killer, so what do these drivers have to do to pace themselves for 180 circuits?
I mean, these drivers for 180 circuits, the bubble markers that they're looking for is around lap 60 to lap 120. That's 60 laps you have to work with on these tires, and around about 20 to 30 laps in, those tires are going to drift away. So try to be careful, but it's going to be hard with our BJ McLeod guys leading the way right now.
Green flag about to fly, and it is now in the air. Is Miles the Monster going to be hungry here this evening? Helton leads him into turn 1.
And Hughes thinking about dropping it already below the 99 machine, the Tyler Hughes, second fastest during practice, third fastest during qualifying. He's somebody to watch out for, but we know that the 8 of Logan Helton and the 99 of David Santini they've been the best of the class all season long.
Barry Stevens was the first driver below the cut line before Shorba forfeited his points and his playoff position. He's now the 12th driver into the playoffs, trying to crowd Cody Jordan there to get that 5th position, and he will clear coming off of 2.
And that's what we're going to be seeing a lot of with these passes is drivers on the high side trying to pinch and hold off the inside line, but it's going to be so difficult as that inside machine is going to have the better positioning and they're able to keep their momentum going forward.
And we're seeing right now the field has pretty much all gotten themselves single file, and they'll probably remain this way for the next 10 or so laps until the tires really start wearing down. It's going to be interesting too to see if we're going to see anyone try and venture up to the second groove, see if maybe they can get a better corner exit and better straightaway speed. That might be then when we start to see some passes.
Now watching our top 4, they're all single filed up, but then you go back to 5th and 6th. That's where all these drivers in a Hornets nest the 45 around.
Caution's going to come out as Tracy Powers going to bring out the first caution of the evening. A lot of rear end damage on the back of his Toyota.
Tracy Powers was racing with the 22 machine of TJ Crampton, and he came down on the 22 and nowhere to go. Also hard contact with Tim Williams on the back end of the 22. And I believe that was the 24 of Brandon Andrews that also got contact, as well as the that was the 16 and the 11 making contact as well.
Kind of interesting there, that contact between the 45 and the 22. The 45 is actually the 13 out of MBM Motorsports, just came in with the wrong number here this evening. And the irony is that the car that he made contact with there, TJ Crampton, who's now over with Penske Racing, his win that he had at Kentucky earlier on this season was in the 66 car for MBM Motorsports. So those two, if Crampton had not been over at Penske, would have been teammates getting together there, bringing out this first caution.
But I mean, they're just racing so much harder than we were expecting here at the start of this race. I know that everyone's so close. Dover is such a quick, kind of like a short track in a way, with it being a mile length. These drivers are going to try to take every inch that they can, and right there, just not enough space for the moves that were being made.
Well, you know, to your point, and I was going to actually ask you this prior to that yellow coming out, because I was noticing how aggressively they were racing as well. When we came on here, I told you that they had 5 sets of tires available, and you were kind of surprised by that. With the fact they've got those extra sets, is that maybe why we're seeing them be so aggressive early on?
Yeah, these drivers are going to be thinking about pushing as hard as they can and probably expecting, hey, let's gain as much positions as we can now. Most likely, this race is not going to go green to the end, or if it does, it's going to be in the later stage of this race. That's a lot of that. By that time, maybe people will be cooled off, but this early stages, use all the tire rubber you can, and maybe we'll pit. And with about 20 laps into a run or 30 laps into a run, and then swap out tires that time.
4 drivers on pit road. Tim Williams, the 19, the 24 of Brandon Andrews, the 22 of TJ Crampton. Looked like they all came down for regularly scheduled stops. Tracy Powers on pit road, getting the damage repaired to the rear of his machine. Right now, all 21 cars that took the green to start are on the lead lap. We got another car now hitting pit road. That is a fill-in driver that we're used to seeing in the Soda Guys Cup Series, Richard Reagan Jr. I think this might actually be his first Rapid Fire Pizza National Series start of the year, filling in there at the Wood Brother Racing's number 21.
The first time I think I've seen Richard Reagan Jr. In our broadcast, so it's good to see him down here helping out Kyle Payne in the 21 machine.
Very easily able to see his car out there on track, the neon 21 numbers as well as the rainbow colors on his Ford Mustang. Also should mention as well that we have another driver that is pulling fill-in duty here tonight. We actually saw him up in the Soda Guys Cup Series when we first started broadcasting here for both Rapid Fire and Soda Guys, and that's Dylan Canova. He was in the Soda Guys Cup Series driving for Stuart Haas Racing, but now he's down in the 39. Of course, Greg Newsom, due to scheduling changes, unable to run full-time down here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. So nice to see Dylan Canova back in a race car, even though it's in the lower series.
Yeah, it's good to see drivers coming back and having a spot to race in. I know that this week was a lot of drivers swapping around with replacement drivers, and then also with the one situation. Speaking of the one situation, we just got word, if Tyler Hughes is able to get at least 95 points and be in the top 75 of the point standings, he will be able to start and get into the playoffs.
So Tyler Hughes, I believe that would be 4 starts that he would probably have to make, which would be all 4 of the regular season races remaining in order to be able to get there into the playoffs. And of course, as you mentioned, would have to have a win along the way. I'm basing that off of Matt White, the 11 car, because he has made 4 starts up to this point and accumulated 97 points in those 4 starts. So somewhere between 3 to 4 starts, depending on his finishes, and a win might put Tyler Hughes into a playoff position.
And it's looking pretty good for Hughes, who's up here in 3rd at the moment, has great pace. Also seeing Jeffrey Meyer up here in the top 5. It's good to see him there as
going to choose the inside line here for this restart. Santini will be on the outside, so we'll see what Logan Helton's able to do. We got some pretty good cloud cover here over Dover, so the track's not as slick as we would normally expect it to be, so a lot of grip down that inside line is Helton, back through the gears, and easily is going to be the only car there clear for the top position heading into turn 1. Powers is still on pit road, still getting damage repaired to that machine, which it didn't look like a whole lot of damage at first glance, but there was quite a bit of contact made to the left front of his machine, and so probably a lot of engine damage maybe sustained there as David Santini wants to close in on his teammate for the race lead, but he's got Tyler Hughes all over his back bumper here through 3 and 4. Hughes trying to peak low, and he may get to the inside here going into turn 3. Not quite able to get the run off the corner. Top 3, throw a blanket over him. They're separated by less than 0.2 of a second. Make it the top 4. Jeffrey Meyer taking a peek there on Hughes for 3rd. I mentioned about Barry Stevens getting up there above the cut line now with the 1 of Jacob Shorba now out of the playoff picture. Another driver that really helped out was Cody Jordan, because a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Jordan and Brandon Andrews trying to fight for that final playoff position. Jordan now moves up to 10th in the playoff standings, 36 points ahead of the cut line, and the 24 of Brandon Andrews, who right now is towards the rear of the field after coming to pit road here under this caution, as we nearly had another one right there with Meyer and Hughes getting close together. Brandon Andrews now is 11th in the playoff standings, 32 points ahead of the cut line. And Meyer trying to get to the inside there of Hughes. It's going to be very difficult for me to not say Shorba, as there was contact right there, and that got the 38 out of shape. Gave a bumper to the 1 of Tyler Hughes, and unfortunately for Meyer, it lost him that momentum and almost spun him around. I had to check up Cody Jordan as well. Chris Whitaker right back here in the 2 machine, and Joshua Gordon, our winner from New Hampshire, now up in the mix also in the 6th and 7th positions, and Jared Carr having a good run there in the 66 machine. Only his 3rd start of the season, and he was up in the top 5 at the start of this race, is now settled back to the 8th position. A couple of drivers that we know got damage from the spin that the 45 car had. Tim Williams in the 19, Carson Bowers in the 16. Right now they are back in the 13th and 14th positions, and there is Richard Reagan Jr. working his way by also in 21. Remember, he came to pit road, I think it was the lap prior to going green. And he has now worked his way up to 14th place, getting to turn some laps here. We're going to see Richard Reagan Jr. in tomorrow night's Soda Guys Cup Series race here from Dover as well. Trying to look and see what other drivers are in the field that are Cup drivers that might be trying to get some experience for tomorrow. And I believe Richard Reagan Jr. may be the only one, and in fact he is.
And I think back
Cody
here
Jordan
set.
with a moment there.
And
3 and 4. Opened up the door for Jared Carr to move to 6th, Joshua Gordon to 7th. And Tom Laneville now moves up to the 8th position. Jordan, the 9 car, falling back to 9th. As up front, pretty much remains single file, but still half a second separating your top 4, Helton, Santini, Hughes, and Meyer. Now Helton, of course, has 3 victories this season. Santini has 7. Jeffrey Meyer, on the other hand, he's locked into the playoffs at this point, 176 points to the good. But he would love to be able to get some playoff points here with a victory. And this is, to my knowledge, at least in the last few weeks, the most competitive we've seen that 38, as he did make his way around Tyler Hughes, now up into the podium in that 3rd position.
There's been a couple of times that we've seen Meyer be up here and up front running well. It's all about if he can come back into this thing and finish this out. But right now, Meyer doing a great job, like you said, being up in the top 3, and he's getting so close to the back end here. Might be someone to watch out for this win, as Hughes is dropping back quick from 4th place.
That's on the charge is that 21 of Richard Reagan Jr. He just got around Dylan Canova. He just now gets around Matt White. That's up to the 11th spot, and he restarted. I think it was back around the 19th position. Not sure if he took tires on that pit stop or not, but if he did, we're definitely seeing a difference between even 6 lap fresher tires.
Well, a car that's the fastest right now is going to be the 66 of Jared Carr, who just got by Tyler Hughes. and he is the fastest car on track at the moment. That's 66. Someone to watch out for as he started back in the ninth position, now up to fourth place, I should say, and gaining on our front pack quick.
Now we know the situation with Tyler Hughes. I mean, Jared Carr would possibly fall into that as well. 2 starts this season and has 41 points accumulated. So if he were able to close the deal with a checkered flag here tonight and make at least one of the next 3 races here of the regular season, we could possibly be having his name up there in a playoff position.
Yeah, I mean, he really has a chance here at Dover. But the real question is we're used to seeing the BJ McLeod guys that are running up front have a better long run setup than everyone else. How much are they saving of tires compared to someone like Jared Carr, who looks like he is pushing that machine to its fullest potential at the moment?
I'm not really sure how much saving Logan Helton's able to do with the fact he's got Santini right on his back bumper, but Santini might be not only putting the pressure, but he might be able to save a little bit. So we got a car on pit road. That's Matt Knight in the 0-1. I would assume this is an unscheduled pit stop for him.
I'm going to take a quick look back, but it could be contact made with the wall that has put the 1 in here. And it was about 2 laps ago, got into the outside wall off at turn number 2. That heavy contact bringing the 0-1 into pits.
A lot of times in practice, it's difficult to be able to completely gauge what's going to happen in the race because a lot of times drivers are out there trying to set qualifying laps. They'll push the car a little bit harder than they would in race trim conditions. Saw a lot of drivers go up and get that outside wall, especially off of turn 2, and then spin down the back straightaway. And maybe we're starting to see now as that right front starts to continue to build heat and the car does not want to turn off the corner, we may see a couple more drivers up there brushing the wall before we end up getting maybe to a round of green flag pit stops.
And Matt Knight, after bringing it into the pits, has disconnected from the race server, so looking like his day is done. Battling on track, though, is for position of 6th place, where you're seeing Hughes and Whitaker side-by-side action. And here comes Richard Reagan Jr., who we were talking about earlier. He has been hard charging up to the front, up to 8th at the moment. Boy, he could easily pass both these drivers for 6th place.
Oh, Reagan Jr. is marching to the front. To your point, Tyler Hughes, he is dropping like a rock. He was up solidified in the 3rd position about, 10 laps ago. All of a sudden, he's back to the 8th position and losing even more ground. He's got Matt White, Tim Williams, Joshua Gordon, Barry Stevens all back there hungry to move up into the top 10.
Yeah, if he falls back into those 4 machines' clutches, there's a chance that we will be seeing that become our new hornet's nest that we like to say. During these races, there's just those cluster of cars that are always near one another, and it's looking like it's back there from 9th on back.
I think we had a car maybe get up into the wall. The 22 of TJ Crampton just lost a number of positions, and I think Cody Jordan might have run into a problem because he has fallen all the way back to 17th.
Yeah, he's just been having a lot of issues here. And they were running hard and contact was made. Cody Jordan having a lot of issues, dropping back to 17th place, and also has heavy right-sided damage.
Battle for the lead is going to take place coming to lap 30. David Santini took a look on his teammate there. Logan Helton could not quite get the power down off the corner, and that's something we're going to be seeing here the longer the run goes on, how that top line, at least on exit, is going to be more preferred because it's so difficult when the car starts to tighten up in the center of the corner to get back to the throttle and make a pass on that inside line.
It really is, and it's one of those things where you got to pinch the car and hope that you can stop them from going forward. I'm looking back, though, the 1 machine still dropping back quick, and now Joshua Gordon able to get by Evan Longacre in that 10 machine. It was on it quite a long top 10, top 5 streak back about, a month ago or so. He's now back here in 13th trying to make a way forward.
Just behind Tyler Hughes, just ahead of Dylan Canova. Right now, he is the 2nd highest running of the college racing machines. Matt White, the highest in 8th place, and their teammate Carson Bowers back there in 15th. Of course, he's battling a race car that has a little bit of damage, getting a piece of the first caution, the only caution up to this point. Been looking at the lap times here, Sam. A lot of these drivers, for the most part, have been out there 32, now 33 laps on the set of tires, have not pitted since we went green to start this race. And right now, if we're looking at our race leaders, they're running about a second and 3/10 slower than their fastest lap. Huge drop off for these guys.
Yeah, already huge, and that was expected. Dover, like we said at the start of on the top of the broadcast, it's going to be a killer for these tires. They're going to be dropping off quick, and they have already done so. And the longer this run goes on, the more it's going to probably drop off. By the time these drivers pit, they're probably going to be off their best lap time pace by about 2 seconds, maybe even more than that by the time that they decide to pit around lap 60 or so.
Williams going to work his way around Chris Whitaker. Whitaker looks to cross him back over. Those two were doing a little slicing and dicing down the back straightaway. Both of them looked like they were maybe a little bit out of shape in the process, but Williams will hold the ninth position now, setting his sights on Barry Stevens. Williams and Richard Reagan Jr., two drivers that were on pit road under the only caution up to this point. They're the only ones that have worked their way up into the top 10. Richard Reagan Jr. right now in 6th. Williams solidly in 9th.
Yeah, and right now Richard Reagan Jr. doing a fantastic job getting up to 6th place. And Tim Williams, I'm shocked how well he's doing because he got head-on front-end damage, which means that is the best chance of, or I should say the worst chance of getting engine damage. It looks like he's still running pretty well, but probably does not like the fact that he has that front-end damage.
Our SS Racing teammates just exchanged the 12th position. Dylan Canova moving by New Hampshire winner Joshua Gordon. Further up, another guy that's worked his way now up into the top 5. 4th place running Tom Laneville, and he is running just about the fastest laps in this race right now of the drivers that have the older tires. He's only been maybe about a 100th to maybe a 10th off of Helton and Santini.
Yeah, doing a great job in the 18 machine. And Laneville, someone that I don't believe I've seen. Was this one of his first starts, or was he racing earlier before we started broadcasting?
Well, he was racing earlier. He's right now making his 11th start of the season, but his starts have been few and far between since we started broadcasting. So we've been actually watching this 18 slowly falling down the running order in terms of the playoff standings. So he comes into this race now outside of the cutoff line, 160 points back. So he's going to definitely need a bit of a miracle run here in the final 4 races if he's going to get himself back into the playoff grid.
And being ran down by Richard Reagan Jr., who, as we have stated, is on the fresher tires of the drivers out here. So makes sense that he is gaining on the drivers and up into the top 5.
It's interesting because a lot of races we see drivers from the Cup Series racing down here at tracks that they're going to be at the following night. Ty McWhirter, we've seen him a number of times in the 20 car for Joe Gibbs racing down here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. Are you surprised that the only guy that we're seeing right now from the Cup Series that's down here testing out Dover is Richard Reagan Jr.?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that he's the only one. Like we've stated, there's been other drivers that have come in, but they're usually subbing in for other drivers, and they probably just couldn't find a spot to sub in for today's race, and that's why they were not able to get in. But a great advantage for Richard Reagan Jr. because every single time we've seen drivers come down and race with these guys a day prior, they get so much knowledge about the track that they're at that they're able to take that knowledge and put it into the next race and get a top 5, sometimes a top 3 finish.
As a run goes on here at Dover, you can definitely see either who's been able to save their tires or who hasn't, or has got their car set up for the long run. And saw there Chris Whitaker in the 2. He's dropped all the way back to the 12th position. Cody Jordan all the way back to 17th. So we're starting to see the comers and goers here of who has the long run setup and who had the short run setups.
Yeah, and TJ Crampton still out here trying to battle the best that he can. It's just been a long day for that 22 machine who has just put a lap down and also got into the outside wall. Other drivers that have dropped back that had great qualifying times. I think our biggest loser this race has to be Cody Jordan at this moment. Qualified 5th all the way back to 17th place and being challenged by Brandon Andrews at the moment.
And Brandon Andrews, of course, as we mentioned, with the cutoff line kind of moving down due to Jacob Shorba no longer being playoff eligible. I would kind of have thought that would put a little bit of an added spring in the step of the 24 of Brandon Andrews, because now he and Cody Jordan ahead of the cut line, but both of them really struggling here today at the Monster Mile.
Yeah, struggling extremely badly. Our biggest mover, though, is going to be Richard Reagan Jr. in that 21 machine, 4th right now, qualified 22nd. So a big jump up from where he was at from that early contact that he had earlier in the race.
Well, we are 45 laps in. I found our Hornet's nest, and we nearly had a caution right there as Joshua Gordon almost got the wall. He may have gotten the wall and almost lost it off of turn 2. Carson Bowers, Kevin Roy, Tyler Hughes, all back in this foursome.
Did get into the wall, almost came down into Bowers, but able to continue racing on. But Gordon's been just slowly drifting back. He was up front with Evan Longacre and as well as others up front, but then just he started losing the grip in the tire, started drifting on back, and further back he goes as he's been with Hughes this whole entire time.
Of course, Kevin Roy, I think up until last week, was up inside of the playoff grid, but after a hard luck run last week, now finds himself 24 points back behind Barry Stevens, who right now is running an 8th, Roy back in the 14th position.
Yeah, these drivers are hoping to get better runs here to finish off this season. I mean, the tracks, you're running out of time if you're going to be making it into the playoffs. So these drivers are going to try everything they can in these last couple of races. But coming to the pits, Cody Jordan.
And I would have to assume this is more so for self-preservation, because that car just did not seem to be handling well. Probably coming down, seeing if he can make an adjustment to aid his machine. This could maybe be the start of green flag pit stops, but you said before we came on the air that you're expecting that these drivers might try and go for just a 2-stop strategy.
Yeah, 2-stopper is what was looking like would be the best strategy for these drivers, to split it into a block pitting on lap 60 to 61, possibly even 65, to then pushing it out to lap 30, lap 120, 125, around there. But we'll have to wait and see. With Cody Jordan pitting this early, though, looking like he'll have to either stretch out this part or the final section of this race in that 9 machine, as he's in and out of the pits already.
You know, it's really interesting how things seem to come full circle. This is the second time this season that the Rapid Fire Pizza drivers have been here to Dover International. The guy that we talked about when we first started was Jacob Shorba. This was the track where he went to victory lane, which had him in a playoff position. The guy that finished second to him in that race, he's leading here tonight, Logan Helton in the 8.
Yeah, and Helton's been, Helton and Santini both have just been up front for so long, but this is when things are about to get a lot more tricky for these drivers. They finally have caught up to the cars behind them, as we're starting to see machines come into the pits now.
I believe it was Tyler Hughes in the 1 machine coming to pit road, and he had dropped all the way back to last car on the lead lap after we saw him qualify up near the front and was running up in the 3rd position in the first 10 laps of this race.
Yeah, and it's been a difficult time for Hughes, who we saw up there in the top 3 at one point, and maybe he wasn't able to save his tires, or the setup just was only for the short run, because he dropped back like a rock almost instantly after we passed lap 15.
Logan Helton, who of course coming off a big victory last week at the Daytona Road Course, picking up his 3rd win of the season, and if he can come around and complete 2 more laps, he will have, at least for this season, his personal best most laps led here at Dover. Led 55 the first time we were here at Dover International, and about to come around here, complete his 55th lap led, and then at least 1 more. He'll have more than he had the first time we were here. But having to deal with this lap traffic, it's going to be interesting to see. Well, I shouldn't say lap traffic, but slower traffic. Drivers that are at the tail end of the field. And one thing about this track, it's a mile in length. It's a very fast mile in length. Doesn't take a lot of time to get around here. These drivers are making 24-second laps, even on old tires. When you come to pit road at most tracks, whoa, was that the 24 there?
Yeah, coming into the pits, but came off the wall off at 2, almost came smashing into David Santini. Our second place runner he was holding his breath at that moment.
I was going to bring up the fact, if you come to pit road here, most tracks, you may lose a lap with pitting. You have the potentiality of losing 2 laps if you pit under green flag conditions here at Dover.
Yeah, if you're running back and already put a lap down, you will become 2 laps down like Cody Jordan has been. But these drivers are going to gain more and more time. But our leader, he's now going through what you called the Hornet's Nest, getting by Bowers as well as Jordan and Kevin Roy. So this is the part where you kind of have to understand, hey, you're faster than the cars around you, but those cars you're around, their tires are practically gone. It's contact between the 4 and the 8.
We're just on board with Logan Helton, and you could clearly see he brushed that outside wall off of turn 2. You can see the ripple right there on the right front quarter panel. Gotta wonder how that's going to affect him for the remainder of this race. I mean, I've run Dover before. It's one of those tracks where you spend more of the time in the corner than you actually do on the straightaway, so you don't necessarily have to have a good-looking car for it to handle well.
Yeah, but I think the one thing that kind of Logan Helton, yes, he scraped the wall, but he also was trying to, I think, overthink that situation. He was coming up to the 4 machine and figuring out how to get by him, and I believe they made slight contact with the front of Logan Helton and the rear end of the 4 of Kevin Roy.
I mean, he's got about a second between himself and David Santini, so he probably could have been a little bit more cautious as he almost got the wall again there off of turn 2.
And pits for some of the guys that were running in the top 10. Matt White, Evan Longacre, and also for the 39, all coming in here this lap. Matt White was one of the front runners that was running about 7th at the time. David Santini now into the pits.
We talked about 2-stop strategy. If these drivers were to split the race into thirds, this would be at the time to make the first pit stop and then make that final pit stop around lap 120. So a lot of these guys look like they're taking the strategy that you were thinking of.
And the difference right now from their best lap to their last lap, about 1.5 seconds. For others, even 2 seconds difference. So it's going to be a lot of gaining for the drivers that are short pitting. I mean, we even saw that for Tim Williams that had they pitted the first caution was in the first about 5 laps. So you can gain a lot here just by pitting early by a couple of laps or so.
And it is feeding time at the zoo. We saw Santini, Barry Stevens, and others in the lap before. Helton, Carr, Laneville, Tim Williams are now in this time, and that turns the race lead over to the 21 of Richard Reagan Jr. Right now looks like the Wood Brothers Racing Ford and the Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet, that being Chris Whitaker, are 2 that are looking to go a little bit further.
And they pitted earlier than the other drivers because of that the first caution that came out. So it makes sense why they would stay out a little bit longer than everyone else. But they'll be probably thinking about pitting in here in the next about 3 to 4 laps if they don't want to lose too much time on the rest of the field.
Here comes the 21 to pit lane. Chris Whitaker looks like he's going to stay out another lap potentially. Maybe see if he can get himself a bonus point for a lap led. But you can see right there the difference between his 63-lap-old tires and the 16 moving by him of Carson Bowers, who pitted 3 laps ago.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, right now, Chris Whitaker, his last lap was at 26.1. And then Logan Helt, take that Santini, just put down a 23.3, almost 3 seconds faster than what the 2 car is doing is the 99. And that's not even looking at how fast Logan Helton's going, because he's now on the freshest tires out there.
Probably wondering, well, why is the 2 giving up all this time? Well, right now, he has everyone, with the exception of the top 5, trapped a lap down. So if he were to be able to get some kind of a caution to come out here soon, he could have most of the field trapped -1, having to take a wave around.
And it's a great strategy to do if it works out, but it's looking like the 2 machine is slowing down and will be coming to the pits this time. Actually misses pit road! The 2 of Chris Whitaker missed pit road completely, went way too quick into the pits, and missed the entry into pit road.
Dover is one of those unique tracks where you carry so much speed into the corner and you have to back it down to 45 miles per hour pit road speed. And it's a blind corner too. You're not really sure where the entrance to pit road is and where your braking point to slow down might be. And this is one of the...
Oh, he hit it! He came in the pits and overshot again, but this time he hit the barrels. And the 2 machine of Chris Whitaker, who is trying to strategy out, goes up in smoke.
Wow.
Giving the lead to Logan Helton now.
And you see the damage sustained there on Chris Whitaker. Was trying a little bit of strategy as opposed to everybody else, and as you can see, it has not worked out. This is going to have him multiple laps down. Right now, he's 1 lap down to the leaders, and he's going to have an extended stay on pit road to repair that damage for sure, as the battle for the lead has tightened up now. Logan Helton, David Santini, they've got fresh tires. Santini feels it's time to put the pressure back on his teammate.
And Santini needs to get the lead now because he pitted a lap earlier than the 8 machine, so if he can get ahead and try to slow down the 8 or even try to pull away before the tire difference really kicks in later on in the run, it's the best time too. As Logan Helton, on the later run, actually was pulling away from the 99.
Logan Helton was also picking him up and putting him down as far as lapping machines just before everybody came to pit road for that first round of stops. Now with everything cycled around and the 2-car finally making his way to pit road, we have a total of 11 cars on the lead lap. Dylan Canova is the last of those. Barry Stevens, Kevin Roy, a couple of drivers battling for that final playoff position. They are right now 1 lap down in 12th and 13th.
Through 1 and 2, I was watching our leaders, and Logan Helton came in and actually was on the apron for a little bit of that corner, and it really slowed him up, giving Santini the run. Not able to pass the 8 just yet, but still on the back bumper.
We've only worked 1 caution so far here tonight. That was in the early stages of this race. Just about everybody coming to pit road around lap 60, so we're expecting to see everybody make that final pit stop somewhere around the lap 120 mark with 60 laps to go.
I'm going to go back and see what exactly happened to Richard Reagan Jr. on his pit stop, because he's really far back from our leaders. I know he stayed out, which was making him lose time, but I'm wondering if something possibly happened on pit road for the 21 machine.
Right now, Toyota's up in the top 3. Jared Carr has now made it a 3-man fight for the top position as he's all over the back bumper of David Santini. And remember, back when we went green on that first restart, Jared Carr was one of the fastest cars up inside of the top 5.
And he's going to be still on the back bumper and will get by the 99 and now are charging to the 8 machine. The main thing, though, for Carr is that once we were getting closer, about 10 to 15 laps to when they needed to pit again, was when that 66 started to drop back and was losing time because he was hard charging so much for the first 20 laps.
A little hard to tell, but when Jared Carr was putting the pressure on Santini, I think Santini may have barely brushed the wall on the back straightaway a couple of laps ago. So even all these guys that are running up at the front are struggling with the concrete mile track.
And you were correct, up barely scraping and a little bit of dent in for the 99 machine, who has a slight front right damage at the moment.
Reagan Jr. has now worked his way up to 4th, but he is currently 7 seconds behind these top 3. And here comes Carr, looking to the inside. Helton ran a little bit of a defensive line. Looked like he may have gotten a little loose there going into turn 3.
And these guys are going to be a little bit nerve-wracking here because you got some lap traffic that are all pretty close to one another. You got to utilize the lap traffic right and use it as a pick, or just get around them for the best that you can, as 39 will get out of the way, and we'll see if the 1 gets out of the way just as easily.
Guys trying to figure out where the leaders want to go. Looks like the leaders want the bottom line, as Tyler Hughes is going to get put a lap down. He's in the 9th position, so only 8 cars on the lead lap, and with the pace these guys are setting, I wonder how many cars are going to be in the lead lap when we get to the end of this race.
66 of Jared Carr into the inside and will make the pass cleanly for the lead, getting past Logan Helton, but here comes Helton. Think about a crossover move. Gonna think otherwise of it going into corner number 3.
Is the first lead change we have had in terms of green flag racing here, not counting the cycling of pit stops. Jared Carr puts his MBM Motorsports machine out in front, and let's not forget, this 66 car was piloted to victory lane back at Kentucky, courtesy of TJ Crampton. Might find victory lane for the 2nd time, but with a 2nd driver.
Yeah, it seems like if you want a quick win, hop into the 66 machine, and right now, Carr is doing a great job, but Logan Helton is going nowhere. He is sticking to the back bumper of the 66. Now going to ducking it low into turn number 1.
No way that Jared Carr is going to be able to block that, as now Helton trying to see if he can push the 66 up just a little bit and ruin his entry off the corner. Helton trying to clear. He will on the back straightaway.
The one car that's loving this battle up front, it's got to be David Santini. That can just let these guys battle back and forth, use up their tires the most that they can, so in the later run, it's the 99 machine that can easily pass both of them.
Looks like Helton now is going to open up about 2.5 car lengths between himself and Jared Carr. We've got a good battle going on as well. Lap down machines, but Dylan Canova and Tyler Hughes, who were just lapped a moment ago, those two have been battling for the 10th position. And right now, Barry Stevens got put a lap down. He is the first car 1 lap down, currently in the free pass position, hoping that our race leaders don't catch up to the 10 of Evan Longacre.
Yeah, the next cars that will be put a lap down looks like it will be Longacre. And then in front of him, you've got Jeffrey Meyer, Jeffrey Meyer qualified 3rd and looked like he was going to be up front with our top 4 most of this race. But once the later the run went on, the more that 38 car started to drift back to 7th place at the moment.
Looks like that damage that Tim Williams had when we saw him working his way through the field, they may have spent a little time getting that repaired under his pit stop. He had a pretty lengthy time in his stall, now finds himself 2 laps down in the 17th position. And this is a guy that had worked his way up into the top 10 after he was one of the few drivers that came to pit road under our only caution.
Yeah, other drivers that stayed in late during their pit road would be Joshua Gordon. He was someone that also stayed in pretty late, and Crampton, as those 3 machines stayed in late to get damage repaired. Everyone else came in quick and got out as quick as possible.
Carson Bowers making a pass here on Brandon Andrews. That is for 14th, and now sets his sights on Cody Jordan for 13th. Battling all around the track still here. That's one of the great things about Dover, as we see Evan Longacre get around Jeffrey Meyer for 7th, is that it doesn't matter what portion of the track you're in, you're probably going to find a battle, whether it be between lap cars or lead lap cars.
Yeah, I got to say, Matt White probably in one of the trickiest situations at the moment, as he's trying to get by some lap machines himself. Running 6th at the moment, no one near the 11, just a whole bunch of lap machines.
Get around Cody Jordan there. That's the 15th place driver. Brandon Andrews in 14th, just up ahead. And right now, the driver's got the fastest lap on the racetrack, and maybe not much of a surprise because he does have a little bit fresher tires than the guys ahead of him, is Richard Reagan Jr. We mentioned he was 7 seconds behind the leaders a couple of, or about, 5-10 laps ago. He's now only 5 seconds back, so that 21 car's got some pretty good long run speed.
Yeah, he's been slowly chipping away, and it's been a couple of tenths every single lap, and that's why since we pitted about 20 laps ago, he's been able to chip away at this lead. But by the time that we pit again, he might only be about 3 to 2 seconds off of our lead pack. That's not even equating the fact that the tires will equal out at some point during this run. So Richard Reagan Jr., yes, he's doing a great job chipping away at the lead now, but he might lose more if he does it in a short pit on this later run.
Last driver we saw come down from the Soda Guys Cup Series and take a victory here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series was 2 weeks ago when Brendan Burcroft took the checkered flag at Road America. Logan Helton continuing to show the way here as we are closing in on the halfway point, about 3 laps away before we reach the halfway point of this race. One more pit stop in the future for these drivers as well. Logan Helton trying to go back-to-back and look for his 4th win of the season. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. You won't miss a thing as we're going to go FRN side by side. Welcome you back here to the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. Second caution of the day. You saw it right there. Joshua Gordon, the 93. Brandon Andrews in the 24. Couple of lap machines battling for position.
Yeah, it looked like Brandon Andrews was trying to run the outside line and possibly to give Gordon the spot. And then just got loose coming out and got into the marbles. That 24 machine got loose out of turn 2 and just came drifting slowly down into Gordon. Both of them hard into the inside wall.
And a lot of things happened just prior to that caution. You saw that Logan Helton had put Evan Longacre down a lap, and then Longacre lost a position to Jeffrey Meyer. Meyer is going to be the free pass car 1 lap down in that 7th position.
Yeah, the next car that was kind of in a oh no situation was Matt White, but luckily he'll be staying on the lead lap. Jeffrey Meyer going to be putting himself back onto the lead lap because of him being a lucky dog, but that's a lot of machines that are 1 lap down and are going to be thinking possibly staying out, trying to do a wave around, and maybe another quick caution might come out.
I mean, that's a huge risk, though, because a number of these drivers that would be eligible for a wave around have been out there anywhere from 35 to 40 laps on their set of tires.
Yeah, driver I'm nervous about would be Cody Jordan if he was trying to stay out, and at the moment he is out trying to get by these drivers, but other updates of cars, it looks like Chris Whitaker, while we were under commercial there, looked like the 2 machine has decided to park his machine, and a rough day for the 2 who was trying a different strategy, and then the pit barrels snatched up the 2 machine there while we were under green.
You see the 7 drivers that are on the lead lap. Now leaving pit road was Matt White in the 11. Jeffrey Meyer is, of course, with being the free pass machine. Actually, I think Jeffrey Meyer stayed out, which I'm a little confused about. And now we've got a bunch of the lap machines coming to pit road this time. Evan Longacre, Barry Stevens, Joshua Gordon. Looks like there's very few, if any. No, I don't think there's anybody that's staying out there to take a wave around.
No, like you said, they've been out there for way too many times, for too many laps, and we would put a lap down extremely quick if they stayed out.
And it looks like now Jeffrey Meyer is on pit road, so I guess he had to come down the 2nd lap here, being the free pass car. Only drivers that were on the lead lap when that caution came out were Helton, the leader, Santini, Jared Carr, Richard Reagan Jr., Tom Laneville, and Matt White. And this is going to be interesting, too, because we talk about the race within the race. There's going to be a lot of drivers that are going to be battling potentially for that free pass position should we get ourselves another caution here. And we're now into the second half of the race, too, Sam. We see this all the time, where we end up getting into the second half of this race. The aggressiveness picks up. The field is bunched up for these restarts. We see a lot more mistakes and a lot more yellows fly.
Yeah, and the aggression level going to be raked up so much more. And with how close everyone is, I mean, we saw on that when we first went green on lap 1, and then when we had our lap first caution, how that restart went. The aggression level is so high because everyone's so close that we're bound to see a caution now with drivers in that must get up front, must get into that lucky dog position if another caution comes out.
If you look at the 6 drivers that we had here on the lead lap when that caution came out and kind of look at their scenarios in terms of the playoffs, Richard Reagan Jr. is kind of the one that's out because he's obviously battling for the Cup Series championship. He's out here just to try and win, maybe get the 21 team some owner points, some manufacturer points, some team points. But you got Logan Helton, 3-time winner, David Santini, 7-time winner. They're already locked in. They're looking to continue to rack up playoff points. But Jared Carr, Tom Laneville, Matt White, all 3 of them technically in must-win situations to be able to get themselves into the playoffs.
Yeah, and all those drivers, man, it is crunch time for the guys that are not the BJ McLeod machines up here up front. So I'm excited to see how this restart goes, but also slightly nervous that we might see the quote-unquote big one here on this restart.
Yeah, that's another great point because Dover is one of those few tracks where there's not a whole lot of room to race, and you've got an outside wall and an inside wall on both the front and back straightaways. The track can get very clogged up, especially if a wreck happens towards the front of the field. It's going to be a total of 17 drivers, it looks like, that will still be running when we go back green here for our second restart of the day. 7 of them on the lead lap. As we mentioned, Jeffrey Meyer, currently the free pass car in that 7th position. You mentioned about Chris Whitaker out of the race. TJ Crampton brought his number 22 down pit road about 10 laps ago. They have been repairing that Penske Racing entry for the last 9 minutes or so. Right now, still currently scored in the race, but he is 22 laps down in the 19th position.
I'm interested to see for these drivers. Leading the way right now is going to be the 78 of Barry Stevens, and then as well Tyler Hughes. Those drivers that are going to be challenging the most to figure out who will be the lucky dog position. That's back in row number 4 of this track of cars. So it's going to be madness for a lot of these machines. Hughes was up front, qualified 4th, has been dropping back all race long. Maybe with this caution and the pit road, he's been able to make some adjustments on that one machine to bring himself back up front.
You see a lot of these drivers, lap machines, all intermingled. Stevens, Hughes, Bowers, they are all 1 lap down, but you got the 19 of Tim Williams. He is 2 laps down. Right now he's battling with Joshua Gordon and Brandon Andrews for positions, those 3 on the same lap. But here we go, second restart of the day here at Dover. Past the halfway point, we're going to have 81 laps to go as Logan Helton going to lead us back to green.
Green flag back out in the air, and it's going to be Logan Helton on the inside getting a fantastic start. Moving back up, plenty of space being there. It's the 18 car that I was watching, trying to make some bold moves back in 6th position.
Matt White moved around the 66 of Jared Carr. He's going to go to the 4th spot. Carr trying to battle back, can't quite get there. And look at this, Tom Laneville. This is not for position between himself and the 1. Laneville's on the lead lap. Tyler Hughes right now in that free pass position. First car 1 lap down.
Yeah, I told you Hughes might have been able to make an adjustment to set him up better for this run for the rest of this race, but he is a 1 lap down. He's the first car 1 lap down at the moment, but up front, battling for the lead in 3rd place, Richard Reagan Jr. This is the closest he's been on equal footing with the rest of the drivers he's around, so I'm excited to see how this 21's going to do here for the rest of this stint here.
Of course, these Cup guys, we've seen them here in recent weeks coming down to the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, and they race these Rapid Fire Pizza drivers with respect, but they also want to go out there and take a trip to victory lane. And if you think about it too, the frustration that we heard from Logan Helton back at Road America, finishing 2nd place to the eventual winner Brendan Burcroft, realizing that he missed out on 3 valuable playoff points. I'm certain he doesn't want to have that happen again here tonight at Dover.
David Santini off of 4, almost clobbered the outside wall, but was able to keep it off by getting passed by Matt White. Matt White looking like someone's going to be charging up forward. Here comes Laneville now, thinking about battling out for the 99. David Santini does not look comfortable out here, which is very irregular from what we're used to.
Also very shocking to see Jared Carr kind of fall back there to the 6th position, because remember, he, at least at the initial restart and back on the beginning of the 2nd round of pit stops, seemed to be one of the faster cars in the short run.
Yeah, he was extremely quick on the short runs, and we got a battle for the lead. Here comes Richard Reagan Jr. in the 21 on the inside.
Be very difficult not to see that 21 car to driver's left to your inside as he will clear Logan Helton off the corner. Helton wants the spot back, crosses over into 1.
Crossover move underway, but just not able to keep the momentum on the inside. It's going to be Richard Reagan Jr. off of 2. Clearly has the lead, but can Helton battle back? And is it worth it, though, to battle back with those tires?
This is the first time, barring when he was having to work his way through slower traffic, that 8 car is going to have to deal with dirty air here at Dover.
How well can Logan Helton come back and possibly get this lead back? That's the one thing that's so great with these open setup leagues is every caution, you can completely change your car into a way that you're able to move and have a better running car by the end of the day.
We've been having fun watching this battle for the lead, but how about this battle back here for the free pass position? Right now, Carson Bowers has it, but look who's all lined up behind him.
Tim Williams!
Williams in the 19 gets the wall. He saved it, though, as he's going to bring it back up almost into the 1 of Hughes, who chops the nose off Barry Stevens.
And these guys are all on, this is our Hornets nest that we were talking about where the big one could happen. These are all drivers hunting to get up to where Carson Bowers is, who Bowers all race long has been back around 14th, 15th position, finally has gotten himself back up to 8th place, where we're used to seeing him in the top 10.
Only guy in this group that is not battling for the free pass position is the 19 of Tim Williams. You got Bowers right now out in front of these guys. You've got the 39 of Dylan Canova, Evan Longacre, Tyler Hughes, Barry Stevens. All these drivers battling for that free pass position. And that little bit of a moment for Tim Williams really helped Carson Bowers to open up the gap between himself and those others.
Yeah, and then also in the middle of all this is the lead lap machine of 38 of Jeffrey Meyer, who just looked like he ran in the back quarter panel, the back left quarter panel, the 78 machine, trying to get by all these cars and possibly get up to where Laneville is, or even where Carr is, but Jeffrey Meyer's just stuck in the middle of all this madness.
Remember, Jeffrey Meyer, with getting the free pass, has to start shotgun on the field, even behind all the lap-down machines. So he's having to cut his way through all these lap-down cars before he can get up there and battle with Jared Carr for what would actually be a position on track, 6th place.
And right now, Jeffrey Meyer, almost 7.5 second difference between himself and our leaders at the moment, able to get by the 1, and now has his eyes set on Evan Longacre and also the 39 and the 16.
Lap time somewhat similar still between Richard Reagan Jr. and Logan Helton. Reagan Jr. about a tick quicker, every now and then about 2 to 3 100ths faster each lap. So slowly pulling away to what is a 0.4 of a second gap. And you look at the statistics, we mentioned that he's filling in here tonight at Wood Brothers Racing for Kyle Payne. Payne has made 9 starts here in Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, has been unable to put that 21 to the top 10 yet. Right now, that 21 car is out in front, leading the race at Dover.
I mean, Richard Reagan Jr. in the Soda Guys series has been doing fantastic for himself. So to see some of those top guys from the Cup series coming down, I am not surprised to see how well they've been doing every single time they come in.
Pretty much spread out right now amongst the top 5. The closest proximity battle is right here. David Santini trying to reel in Matt White for what would be the 3rd position. Tom Laneville there as well in the vicinity, waiting to see if that battle will culminate and he may be able to get up here, make it a 3-man fight. But you mentioned David Santini way out of shape early on. May have been that he's willing to have an ill-handling race car in the short run. We may start to see some speed here the longer the run goes on.
And hopefully we see that. We're usually seeing that with Logan Helton, who starts the car extremely loose, and then by the end of the series, end of that stint, he is back and running cleanly. But the Saint Santini, the way that he has been on this last restart, it's so odd because we're used to him being up front and holding his line, and Logan Helton be the one that's being charged by someone else.
Talked about the fact that we're going to see the Soda Guys Cup Series drivers. They're going to be racing here at Dover tomorrow evening, but if we look ahead here for these drivers as well, for the final races of the regular season, Dover tonight, Daytona next week, then Darlington and Richmond. Those are some tough tracks that these drivers are going to have to tackle to try and see if they can get themselves into playoff positions.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers that are outside of making it in and really need a win to get in. Daytona has been circled for most of them. Daytona is such a wild card. Any driver can win that, even if it's an open set of league. Daytona is just one of those racetracks where you feel the most comfortable to utilize the draft, work with someone out there, and get yourself up front the fastest that you can. But looking at these drivers, I'm still looking at Carson Bowers. He's getting a little bit of heat now from Evan Longacre.
That's the battle for the free pass position. A very important battle here between these Colleague Racing teammates. Should we get ourselves a caution in these final 65 laps? Because right now there are only 7 drivers that are running on the same lap as the leader, Richard Reagan Jr.
And as those drivers are battling, also a cluster of 3 machines for 3rd place with Matt White, David Santini, and Tom Laneville.
Laneville right now has kind of been saving his stuff just the least little bit. We were on board with Santini just a moment ago. And the tough thing for David Santini is he's able to get up to the back bumper of Matt White, but it's just coming off the corner, which kind of stifles the run he gets to being able to make a move on either the back or the front straightaway.
Yeah, usually when you want to be on the back bumper, someone is entering the corner and kind of utilize a bump drafting, a bump and run type of a move. But where Santini's catching him, like you said, right in the middle and exit, if you hit a car there, most of the time you're going to be spinning them out, not just moving them. And that would be such a risky move for both vehicles.
BJ McLeod drivers in 2nd and 4th, all of a sudden they're putting the pressure on Santini on the back bumper of Matt White. Logan Helton has closed the gap now between himself and Richard Reagan Jr. from 4 down to 0.2 of a second.
And also looks like that battle that was for the Lucky Dog position is going to be going to Evan Longacre as he's getting passed by Longacre, and then also the lead lap car of Jeffrey Meyer, which Meyer right now running about 4 seconds back from Jared Carr.
We have a battle back here for the 12th position between the 4 of Kevin Roy and the 78 of Barry Stevens. It's actually really not a battle. There's about a second between them, but just based on where they're running on track, Stevens and Roy coming into this race, 1 in, 1 out in terms of the playoffs. Both of them straddling that cutoff line, and both of them right now in the same vicinity as far as the running order right now, not necessarily on the track. There's about a half a straightaway between the two of them.
Yeah, Barry Stevens has a couple of machines that he can get by that would boost his points and help him out. Driver I'm kind of nervous about has to be the 19 of Tim Williams. Almost every single time he comes off of 2, I don't know if he's hit the wall or getting loose, but he shoots immediately to that inside wall, not hitting it, but maybe it's a defensive move, but that car does not look secure coming off of 2.
Sure how you could use it as a defensive move. As mentioned, this track has very short straightaways. You spend more time off the throttle in the corners than you do on the throttle on the straightaways, so I don't necessarily think draft would have enough time to come into play on these short straightaways.
And maybe try and defend the inside line. I cannot think of what's going on, but struggles look like it's going on for Tim Williams, but look back behind him, it looks like the 39 machine a little out of shape, drifting on back.
Dylan Canova loses a spot to Barry Stevens, now 1 to Tyler Hughes. Joshua Gordon, who is not on the same lap as the 39, trying to get to the inside as well. He's trying to get up there to Tim Williams. That would be a battle for 15th place between those two cars who are currently -2 to our race leader.
And a car almost lost it, the 18 up front of Tom Laneville. Able to save the car, but a car that's come back out of nowhere, Jared Carr. The 66 machine is now up here, battling with cars up here. What a caution to the back.
Caution is out, and it's going to be for Dylan Canova. Kevin Roy may have gotten a piece in the 4 car as well.
Got into the wall, got into Gordon, and then the 4 bounced into the back bumper of the 39, spinning them around.
So Dylan Canova, who was 1 lap down, was at the time battling with Tyler Hughes for the 11th position, I do believe. Going to bring out this caution, 3rd one of the day. You talked about Evan Longacre being able to get around Carson Bowers a few laps ago. He is going to be the recipient of the free pass, putting 8 cars on the lead lap.
Also looking at the laps that the drivers are on, with this caution, they're inside the window that this could be the money stop if we go green to the end, but I think, Seth, you and I both know, I don't think we're done with cautions.
No, absolutely not. And it also makes things interesting, too, in terms of just how few cars we have on the lead lap, because if we end up having some late race yellows, we could see some of these guys back in the latter half of the top 8 on the lead lap come to pit road and get those fresh tires, because with this 3rd caution, I think this is, the potentially 3rd set that most of these drivers are putting on. There's still 2 more sets to be had.
Yeah, still a lot of tire strategy to be thrown out if we get a ton of cautions at the end of this thing. But that free pass going to be given to the 10 of Evan Longacre with this caution. So we'll see the 10 be going through the field after he was able to come into the pits and stay on the lead lap, bringing us to 8 drivers now on the lead lap.
And of course, Longacre is going to have to do the same thing that Jeffrey Meyer had to do on the last restart, and that is work his way from the very tail end of the field back up towards the lead lap cars.
And looking at drivers that made pit stops. David Santini able to get by Matt White and up to now what would be 3rd place.
So another thing that I was thinking in terms of Jeffrey Meyer and now what Evan Longacre is going to have to do is when you're trying to fight your way through traffic, there's no way you can be in tire conservation. So let's say that you end up getting past those lap machines, you eventually get up to a car's for position. How much tire rubber do you have underneath you to be able to battle with those cars?
I mean, with the fact that we were seeing a Longacre challenging a lot of the machines he was around, which that was around 8th, 9th place, I think the first couple of machines, it's going to be pretty easy. And then after that, it's going to be pretty difficult for Longacre to get by. And those are the times you're going to be seeing a lot of tire wear being utilized.
It's like one driver will utilize a wave around. That is the 24 of Brandon Andrews, who was 2 laps down prior to this caution. This would get him back to -1, but he is going to be going around, taking the wave around on 32-lap old tires, so certainly will not be laying down speeds in comparison to a lot of these other guys, whether they be lead lap cars or lap down machines around him.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of come out here and do a different strategy as well as helping yourself out by staying out.
So that caution actually helped Jeffrey Meyer with the fact that he was trying to get himself up there to the other top 6 lead lap machines, but now this caution allows him to line up behind those 6 and ahead of the lap down machines. Right now, the battle for that free pass position with as they run currently would be Carson Bowers and Barry Stevens, who will be lining up in the 5th row in 9th and 10th.
And Carson Bowers looked like he's much faster than the rest of these other drivers. It's just, you get caught up in battling with other drivers, use your tire wear out, and then Longacre found himself being slightly faster in the middle stage of that green flag run and was able to get by Bowers there. So I'm expecting to see I'm expecting to see Bowers be the driver that gets the lucky dog if we get another caution here. But, it's going to be madness here as the drivers, they've been ramping it up more and more every single caution we've had, and it's only going to get worse from here.
And this is maybe one of the tougher tracks as well in terms of pit road to fake pit. Let's say that Richard Reagan Jr., Logan Helton, they want to try and draw drivers down after a late yellow, try to draw them down pit road. It's not going to be that easy for them to then turn back onto the racetrack because Dover's got an orange square, which is technically their commitment cone. If you hit that, that's in violation and you would end up getting a penalty.
Yeah, one car that I saw that was trying to do a little bit of fake outs in that first caution was David Santini, who tried to do a little bit of fake out, but really no one else was planning on coming in. So there may be some mind tricks or chess matches for these drivers with their last about 2 sets to work with here. But it's going to be tricky for all these drivers to figure out when they're going to pit, who was going to be saving tires and who's not.
Will we see this thing go green to the end? Is the setup these drivers have now underneath them what they're going to have going to the checkered flag? It'll be Richard Reagan Jr. who'll be the control car on this restart. The last 2 restarts, it's been Logan Helton. He'll be on the outside of the front row. David Santini, Matt White in row 2, Tom Laneville and Jared Carr in row 3. Jeffrey Meyer will be on the inside of row 4. And Evan Longacre, who is the last car in lead lap in 8th, obviously will be starting shotgun on the field after getting the free pass. Going to be going back green, it looks like, with about 49 laps to go here at Dover.
And like I said, this could be our money stop for these drivers and where they're at if we don't get another caution. Everyone is good to make it to the end from here on out. So we'll see if this was our final caution of the day or if we'll see another one. As it looks like you see the different stages of cars being aggressive. At the first about 5 laps, it's pretty bad. They simmer down for a bit, and then 20 laps into a run, that's when they crank it up again. We'll see if that continues on as pace cars off.
One driver that is praying for another caution. You talk about everybody pretty much good to go on fuel. Brandon Andrews might not be, as he's been out there for 35 laps since it being to pit road. So that would put him outside of the window of making it, as Richard Reagan Jr. had everyone off their feet as he's going to pull away by about 4 car lengths.
Everyone stopped. In the car that really stopped, it's going to be the 11 of White, who's going to continue to drop back even further and further. Everyone's staying pretty single file at the moment, but man, Richard Reagan Jr. already out to a half a second gap, the biggest gap that we've really seen him have all race.
We're seeing these lap down machines racing these lead cars as if it's for position. We nearly had Carson Bowers sending Jared Carr up the track, and we had the one of Tyler Hughes almost getting to the back of Jeffrey Meyer.
Yeah, it looks like Jared Carr has changed his way of setting up that machine. On that last run, it was about long run. He's now set it back to where it's a good short run machine, as here comes the 66 already by Matt White.
Now up to the 5th position, trying to reel in the 18 of Tom Laneville. Laneville on the back bumper of David Santini. That could turn into a 3-car fight maybe for the 3rd position.
And right now I'm watching back as Jeffrey Meyer I think he likes being up here with the drivers that are on the lead lap, but he's actually smushed between two lap machines at the moment.
On board with Evan Longacre, who had to start the rear of the field after getting the free pass. He's made his way by a couple of machines. That is Kevin Roy, 13th place running machine. Lap car just up ahead of him. Tim Williams, you see the 19 up ahead also. Look at all those cars up ahead there through turns 3 and 4 that Evan Longacre has got to make his way by.
Yeah, he has to make his way by and also just make sure that if there is any issues for those machines, that he doesn't get caught up into their messes, as you've got Cody Jordan ahead of Longacre, getting on the back bumper of Barry Stevens and almost showing the 78 off the course.
Right now, Bowers and Tyler Hughes are battling for that free pass position. They've got the lead lap car of Jeffrey Meyer in between the two of them. Carson Bowers, you mentioned, has run most of the first half of this race around the mid-pack area. Right now, even though he is the first car one lap down, he's in the top 10 in ninth. That just shows how many cars are one lap down. And right now, Hughes in that 10th position as we've got a battle up ahead. It was an exchange for third. Jared Carr getting around Tom Laneville, and Laneville now getting around David Santini. Santini just lost 2 spots.
Yeah, Santini's dropping back quick. We saw this during that last restart where he lost a couple positions and started trying to work them back up. At the moment, though, Carr is one of the fastest cars on track, running slightly faster than the 21 of Richard Reagan Jr., and that's while passing other machines.
Oh my goodness, almost trying to move Logan Helton out of the way off of turn 4. Helton trying to cut him off. Ooh, may have gotten the apron there. Did Carr, as he got a little squirrely through 1 and 2.
Carr is getting frustrated. He knows he's faster than the leader, but he is getting trapped by the 8 of Logan Helton, and Helton's doing a great job. He's running just a half a groove above, not allowing Carr to get under him and get by, which is so frustrating for a machine that knows he's so much quicker, trying to get on the inside, and looks like this time will be successful for Carr.
Such good short run speed right now, which means he'll be giving up a little bit in terms of speed the longer the run goes on. So the sense of urgency is there. He finally clears for the second position. Let's see what he can do. 1.3 seconds between himself and race leader Richard Reagan Jr.
Something we haven't really talked about much all race long is the track temp. And it's been cool most of the race. And right now the shadows are over the racetrack. Track temp at the moment 86 degrees, which is a nice cool track. Not a lot of tire wear is going to be worn off. These drivers have a really nice grippy track to work with.
Probably why we've seen a lot of bottom feeding here as well at Dover. Usually Dover, as the run goes on, turns into a multi-groove track. We see a lot of drivers go up to that second groove. A lot of drivers that have been kicked up to that second groove have not been able to make forward progress, have been dropping back. So everybody's been able to find that grip down the bottom.
And looking at drivers now trying to make a move forward. Jeffrey Meyer past the lap machines, now on the back bumper of the 11 of White. See if White's able to hold off, but man, Jeffrey Meyer has had a very up and down race so far, and trying to rebound and at least get himself a top 5 finish here as we're coming to the end of this race.
Of the drivers in the overall standings coming into this race, Jeffrey Meyer is the only driver inside of the top 5 that has less than 5 top 5 finishes, 3 coming into this race in 21 starts, and close, a couple of positions away from maybe picking up top 5, number 4.
And we'll see if that 38 machine can get it done, but he has to get by the 11 of Matt White as well as the 99 of David Santini, as those drivers have been running quick and up front most of this race. I feel like the driver, though, that's been up front has been extremely quiet in our eyes probably has to be Tom Laneville, who has been up front, been in the top 10 all race long, has been in the top 5, but kind of by himself all race long.
Yeah, we've seen that 18 car on track multiple weeks, but usually being filled in. Tom Drayling, I know, has filled in that ride a couple of times down here in the series, but Laneville, the actual driver, back in the car here tonight. And yeah, to your point, we haven't really seen Laneville in very many of the races we've broadcasted. Been very quiet here today, and this may be his MO, as he's been solidly up in the top 5 this entire race.
Car that has a very different entry from everyone else has to be David Santini, who his machine, when pulling into the race, into the corner, looks like it's almost completely sideways at times, and then able to catch it in the middle of the corner, which is so odd from what we're used to seeing.
I almost wonder just how that might affect the wearing of the tires as well, or the lack thereof. Might be a way to be able to conserve those tires, especially as we saw he had a very good car on the long green flag run when we got through our first round of green flag pit stops. Battle for sixth. Jeffrey Myers.
Oh, Cody Jordan goes around.
And caution's going to fly. I think the caution came out just before that move was made, so I think White's going to hang on to the sixth position over Meyer. But Cody Jordan on the back straightaway, fourth caution of the evening. We're going to be getting ourselves a green flag here, Sam, with less than 30 laps to go.
And I'm expecting to see a lot of drivers coming into the pits and utilizing their pit stop here. But at the same time, some of these drivers, do they want to continue saving their tires? Because I think most of these drivers have at least one more set with them.
Free pass position, Carson Bowers. So 9 drivers will be back on the lead lap, as there you see the contact between Jordan and Stevens. Kind of hard to fault either driver on that. Typical Dover, where the outside line driver wants to try and pinch the inside line driver out, and the inside line driver pushes up. So a classic a classic Dover spin here brings out the fourth caution of the evening. And this is going to be an interesting restart too, because we saw just how good Jared Carr was on the restart. He had to work his way around Logan Helton. Now he potentially could be on the front row with Richard Reagan Jr. And I have to assume a lot of these drivers now are going to be setting up their car for the short run.
Oh, they have to be. And, you know, Jared Carr, he's got this thing hooked up and ready to go. I think what helped the most for Richard Reagan Jr. was being the leader and really catching everyone sleeping. We'll see what everyone else is where they come out of the pits, but Richard Reagan Jr. out first. And Logan Helton able to get out before Carr, who looked like Carr had a longer pit stop than what everyone else has been having.
Well, Logan Helton also had the first pit stall, which helped him with his exit. Only had to make his way to the commitment line, and so that allowed him to nab second place back from Jared Carr. Actually, I think Carr might have gotten himself a speeding penalty as he is dropping back.
He's dropping back, still on the apron, letting cars go on by, and I'm going to look back to see if he was speeding coming out or into the pits.
So that's a costly mistake there for the 66 of Jared Carr, who would have been lining up third here for this restart, and now is going to find himself back in, I believe, the 9th position, make that 8th position on this restart. You see the 16 of Carson Bowers pitting this time. He will be back on the lead lap momentarily, but has to pit the lap after the leaders on the lead lap. So it's going to be Richard Reagan Jr. and Logan Helton that are going to be the front row yet again for back-to-back restarts.
Yeah, I think Carr might have been caught there as he was coming out of the pits, going just about 3 miles per hour too fast off of coming out of the pit road. Maybe just about 100 feet or less than that coming to the end of the box.
As we get closer to the end of this race, we've got some drivers that are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice in terms of lap times to be able to gain track position. 3 drivers going to take that wave around. Dylan Canova in the 39. This would put him back on the lead lap in the 10th position. And drivers that are 2 laps down, Tim Williams and Joshua Gordon taking the wave around. This would put them -1 to the race leaders. They are 16th and 17th right now on the grid.
Yeah, those drivers needing to get their laps back. Canova is going to be interesting because he'll be on the lead lap, I presume. Is he putting himself on the lead lap by staying out?
Yes, he is. Yep, 39 would be on the lead lap in 10th.
Yeah, this could be a brilliant move if we see another quick caution, because if we drive another 15, 20 laps or so, and we have a late caution that comes out, I don't know if anyone else has another set of tires to work with here at the end of this race. And I believe Canova might have another set left.
Great point with this caution coming out and everybody coming to pit road. Yeah, they may have used up their 5 sets of tires and now have kind of made their proverbial bed and going to have to lie in it here for what's going to be a less than 30 lap shootout.
Which I'm surprised to see that not more drivers thought about possibly staying out here. Yes, you were going to lose time, but if you were able to at least stay in and let everyone else utilize their tires as another caution would come out, I mean, that's a strategy there of itself, to just have the fresher tires than everyone else if another caution comes out.
The lights go out, which should be this time. Those three machines, the 39, 19, and 93, will go around the pace car. The field will double up. It'll be Richard Reagan Jr. and Logan Helton, first and second, followed by Tom Laneville and David Santini. That's row 2. Row 3 will be Matt White and Jeffrey Meyer. And then back in row 4 is going to be Evan Longacre and Jared Carr. Carson Bowers will be at the tail end of the field after getting the free pass. Dylan Canova, who's also going to be on the lead lap, will also be at the tail end of the field as he is one of these 3 waiver rounds.
Looking like it's going to be 28 laps to go when we go green again. Seth, I know I've got my idea for the end of this race, but do you think we're done with cautions here?
Absolutely not. We've still got the same scenario that we've had for the last 2 restarts, which is the race within the race. We've got drivers that are battling for this win, but we've also got drivers battling that, in case the caution come out, they want to be the free pass car. So in the mid-pack area, it's going to be pretty much the hornet's nest, and we've seen, depending on how good a restart the leader gets, second, third, fourth, fifth, they all get clustered up when we head into turn 1.
It's going to be interesting to see how some of these drivers are able to get cut through the field, as Carson Bowers was given the lucky dog. So that 16 machine with fresh tires will be having to start at the end of the line, making his way through. But up front, Richard Reagan Jr., Logan Helton. Is it BJ McLeod going to get another win this season, or are we going to see one of the Soda guys coming back and get another win? As we're back under green, there goes Richard Reagan Jr. with another massive start, and on the inside, it's the 18 under the 8.
Laneville trying to see if he can move up to the second position, as both Helton and Santini were kind of caught flat-footed on that outside line. Ooh, maybe some contact as Logan Helton gets out of shape off of 2.
And Logan Helton, he's now under fire between David Santini and that 99 machine, trying to get that car set up for better for the short run. But right now, Richard Reagan Jr. feeling so comfortable right now. And with no Jared Carr, there's really no one to challenge the 21 at the moment.
But has Tom Laneville been hiding underneath the hood of that 18? He's in a must-win situation, in effect, as he is a total of 160 points back from the cutoff line. He needs to win to get himself back into playoff contention, but now he's got Helton back to his inside for second.
Not surprised to see Helton trying to rebound after that early contact that was made, and him trying to get back up in here, now up to second. Does Logan Helton have enough? As he is a little bit over a half a second. Here comes Santini under the 18 as well, and almost getting contact with the 18.
Helton's going to have to make up 7/10 of a second between himself and Richard Reagan Jr. That time by about a 10th difference, advantage to the 21.
I'm watching these times being placed down. Fastest car up here in the top 5 is the 38 of Jeffrey Meyer, who is coming on the back end of Tom Laneville.
Jeffrey Meyer right now in that 5th position, currently running a 1.5 seconds back from race leader Richard Reagan Jr. And if he continues to pick up some spots, if we get ourselves that late race yellow, that's another position up onto another row that Jeffrey Meyer would move. He would move from the inside of row 3 up to the outside of row 2.
And right now, I don't know if you want to be on the outside. I think the outside, now the inside's where you kind of want to be, because that's where Richard Reagan Jr. has been, and that's where he's been taking off. As here comes Jared Carr. He's on the back bumper of the 10, and here comes the 11 as well on the back bumper of Jeffrey Meyer.
So 6th, 7th, and 8th right here with the 11, the 10, and the 66. Behind them, you've got Tyler Hughes, who right now is in the free pass position and kind of holding that spot all by his lonesome, as he's got a second between himself and his next competition, which will be Barry Stevens. Longacre cuts off the nose of Carr, now goes to the inside of his teammate White. That's going to be for 6th.
Longacre trying to make a push up for possibly the top 5, get by the 38 of Meyer. But also Carr, you kind of question, if he did not get that penalty that dropped him back so far, what type of challenge would he have had here for the 21 machine? Because he's running just as quick, sometimes quicker than our leader.
Meyer is now moved up to the 4th position, and I don't know about you, Sam, but it looks like I'm seeing a little bit of sunlight creeping out there onto the front straightaway.
And you got to question, is the temperature going to raise at all for these drivers that have set up for a cooler track? It is 85 degrees right now on the track temp, so it is still dropped from the last time we talked about it. But with the sunlight coming up, it could heat it up here for the last about 20 laps.
7/10 of a second last time we looked. Cut it down by 4/10. 3/10 of a second now separation between Richard Reagan Jr. and Logan Helton. That translates to about 2.5 car lengths.
But is Richard Reagan Jr. saving his tires? He got such a huge lead that he could save his tires for the last 15 laps or so, while Logan Helton had to get by the 18 machine and then try to catch up to where Richard Reagan Jr. is.
I would have agreed with you maybe on that, but I just saw that 21 get awfully loose there off of turn 4. I think he's still pushing.
Still pushing hard, and here comes Jeffrey Meyer on the inside of the 99 of David Stantini for third place, able to make that pass cleanly, and now try to catch up to our leaders, but he's 2 seconds back. I think he might be too far, and it might just be a 2-horse race here as we're less than 20 laps to go.
Jeffrey Meyer is looking to tie his best finish of the season, a third-place run. That was all the way back in the second race of the season back at Las Vegas. And right now, he's up in the podium currently, and as you mentioned, a long ways back from this brewing battle for the race lead.
And it might not be over just yet from caution-wise, because from 5th on back, they're all still on top of one another pretty close. So it's not over just yet for there to be a caution probably at the end of this race.
You bring up the fact that you'd want to maybe on a restart be that second car on the inside, as we nearly had contact there. We might have had contact actually between the 18 and the 66 in that battle for 5th place. And that would put Jeffrey Meyer in that position, and we saw just how good he was on that short run spurt.
And Plainville on the back bumper of the 66.
And that brings Evan Longacre now into the picture. Longacre in 7th, trying to work his way back up into the top 5.
These drivers know, they can feel it. There's so much pressure going on for these drivers with 15 laps to go. It's go time now. If you hold back at all, you're wasting time.
Battle for the free pass position is starting to heat up. That's Tyler Hughes and Barry Stevens, 11th and 12th place. First 2 cars, 1 lap down.
And we saw in that last caution, it was Barry Stevens that got a huge run and then got into the back bumper of the 9. So we'll see if Barry Stevens, if he gets another run, if he's willing to use his bumper once again.
Just a little ways back behind these drivers, you've got Brandon Andrews there in the 24 car as well. After early issues, getting involved in a wreck off of turn 2 with Joshua Gordon. He's rebounded nicely into the 13th position.
I'm just watching our leaders at the moment, and it just looks like Helton's able to get in within 2/10 of our leader, but then drops back after making a couple of mistakes for about a corner or so. It's not looking good for Helton, who it looks like he just doesn't have enough grip, enough tires to make it and catch up to the 21, let alone pass him.
Battle for 6th, Tom Laneville, Evan Longacre. You see Longacre kind of running that second groove, trying to see if he can get a better exit off the corner, translate into straightaways. But look at the run he's going to get going into turn 1.
A huge run, able to get inside of the 18 machine of Laneville, and here comes Longacre. But Laneville comes down, cuts him off.
A little risky because that's not always a guarantee. The 10's going to lift and let you back in line, especially when there's only 12 laps to go here at Dover.
And that's the second time that I've seen Laneville do that, and the second time a car behind him has let off. You know that once we come to less than 10 laps to go, no one is going to be able to be that kind anymore, and that might be the end of your race.
I thought Longacre might try to make a move there. Ooh, Laneville with a little mistake. Gets the apron, drifts up the track. That opens the door. Here comes Longacre to take the spot.
Longacre confidently will take that spot up to 6th place. I'm looking at some of the other cars out here go up to about the battle for 4th place possibly. I take that back. The battle for 3rd place is Meyer and also Santini within 3/10 of one another. Some of the closest action on track around here, as well as, like you said, for the challenge to see who will get that lucky dog spot if we have another caution.
Car back there as well in the 66. So you got 3 cars up here, separated by about 0.6 of a second for this 3rd position. The gap for the lead, though, is now opened back up to 0.7 between Richard Reagan Jr. and Logan Helton. And again, it's back to what we saw on the last restart, where just little by little, by maybe about 6/100ths, we see Richard Reagan Jr. pull away lap by lap.
Yeah, and he's in a very comfortable spot with having an 8/10 lead at the moment. That 21 machine of Richard Reagan Jr. feeling comfortable. Unless we have another caution, I don't see anyone else that can really touch him. I know that Jared Carr is really feeling good. I mean, he's got a fast machine running faster than our leaders at the moment, but he's stuck almost 3 seconds back from our leaders at the moment.
Talk about the potentiality of another caution. How about this group back here? The free pass position, 3 cars. Tyler Hughes, Barry Stevens, Brandon Andrews. Throw a blanket over him.
Oh!
Contact!
Contact!
Here goes Hughes up into the wall. He's going to keep it straight. We're still green.
Yeah, I told you that Stevens, he's used his bumper before, and he wasn't afraid to use it again. As the 78 moves the 1 out of the way.
Now, in order for him to get back into the hunt, he's got to have himself a caution moving into the free pass position. Actually, check that. Dylan Canova just went a lap down. Remember, he took the wave around, so now he's in the free pass position about 11 seconds, or make that 9 seconds ahead of Barry Stevens.
It's dropping a second by almost every 3 seconds or so, as the 39 machine is going to be ran down by Barry Stevens here very quickly, as watching that gap is dwindling between those 2 drivers.
But right now, Canova on 46-lap old tires, 20 laps difference to everyone else around him. He's literally crawling around Dover, but the guy that is not crawling, a second difference between himself and Logan Helton. Richard Reagan Jr., already a winner this season at New Hampshire in the Soda Guys Cup Series, looking to take his first win here tonight at Dover in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series.
I don't know where Dylan Canova got this pace from, but coming off a 2, he stayed right on the back bumper of the 8 machine and continuing to stay there. I don't know where Dylan Canova's been just saving this up.
Canova right now is destined to get a top 10 run if he can hold off Barry Stevens for these final 4 laps. 7 seconds.
Whoa, Helton almost lost it.
I think this is now him driving frustrated, just trying to use up every bit of the track, every bit of his Goodyear tires, every bit that the race car has left to offer, trying to run down Richard Reagan Jr.
And Carr loves this. This is his potential to get into the top 3s. He's on the back bumper of the 38 machine of Meyer, and as these laps start to tick away for everyone out here, it's looking more confident there for Richard Reagan Jr. to get the win. But does Helton, does he continue to save in second place as Carr is coming?
Yeah, Jared Carr just moved into the 3rd position, getting around Jeffrey Meyer, looking for his first top 5 finish in 3 starts here. Santini may have brushed the wall again there off of 2. It's hard to tell. That might have just been his normal exodus. Tom Laneville, Evan Longacre, they're going to battle for 7th as the white flag will be displayed this next time around for Richard Reagan Jr.
Coming out of 4, the white flag out in the flag stand and waving for the 21. The next flag that comes out is going to end this thing, but Richard Reagan Jr., ever since he got the lead, no one else has been close to the 21.
Mentioned the fact that the 21 car this season has not been close to a top 5 finish. Well, it's going to get its first one here today, and it's going to be a big one. Wood Brothers Racing is going to go to victory lane at Dover. Richard Reagan Jr. off turn 4 for the checkers.
Gonna get it done for the 21. Richard Reagan Jr. gets the win here at Dover, and the battle for second goes to Logan Helton. But man, Jared Carr really did try to get that second position.
Richard Reagan Jr., the only one of the Soda Guys Cup Series drivers to take part in tonight's race. You got to think this is going to give him a little bit of an added edge when we get to tomorrow night's Dover race, as he's going to be visiting Victory Lane here this evening. Miles the Monster may have been hungry, but Richard Reagan Jr. was obviously not on the menu.
Yeah, I mean, the information that this 21 can take from this race is tires and how to work with the tire limit that you have. Do I save it for the later run, or do I just stick with the strategy that I have, just working around what I have? And it looks like the 21 machine, great strategy. Also, a little bit of luck. I think if Jared Carr didn't have that penalty on that last pit stop, that 66 machine might have put a lot of pressure on the 21.
Also wonder if Richard Reagan Jr. would have been up here in the conversation for the win had we not had some of those late race yellows. We had that round of pit stops. He gained a little ground there, but Helton with the track position, wonder if this thing had gone green pretty much for the entirety of this race, if we still would have been saying Richard Reagan Jr.'s name in the winner's circle.
It would have been close for a lot of these machines, but at the end of the day, luck and skill both need to be implemented here. And Richard Reagan Jr. really showed off at Dover, getting the win here. And it's something, like you said, momentum probably for tomorrow to possibly get a win there that would help him a ton for the Soda Guys Series.
We had as few as 6 drivers on the lead lap at one point of this race. 9 drivers officially will finish on the lead lap here today, with Reagan Jr. the winner. Helton in second. Jared Carr gets his best finish by far a third place run today. Santini will finish it with fourth, Matt White in fifth, Tom Laneville sixth, Evan Longacre in seventh, and Jeffrey Meyer kind of faded back there late. He dropped back to the eighth position. Carson Bowers finished in ninth. First car one lap down. The strategy worked for Dylan Canova, damaged, but he still was able to salvage a top 10 run after taking that wave around under the last caution.
Yeah, these drivers, man, they had to stick it out. They were hoping for more yellows to come out there at the end, but a lot of great saves from machines that either had contact, got loose out of turn number 2, and were able to continue driving forward. So a lot of tired drivers, I would imagine, here at Dover running this 180 lap race. It's a lot.
Saw Barry Stevens move Tyler Hughes out of the way, but that position was actually important for Barry Stevens because we talked about that he and Kevin Roy were separated by 24 points around that cutoff line area. Stevens going to gain some points here tonight, finishing 11th, Roy back in the 15th position.
And right now, looks like getting ready to do some interviews with some of these drivers, but it was a long race for these guys. You got to think for Chris Whitaker, he was hoping for a better start to the race and not the way that he exited out of this thing as that two machine trying a different strategy. I really wonder how Whitaker's strategy would have worked out there with how long he was staying out compared to everyone else.
Yeah, he lost a lot of time there, obviously, with staying out about 5-6 laps longer than everybody else did. But yeah, it would have been really interesting to see how it panned out, especially, too, if you consider the fact that if everything kind of played out the same way that it did here tonight with those cautions, if it would have had him still on the lead lap or if he would have had to battle like a number of other drivers like Barry Stevens, Carson Bowers, Tyler Hughes to get himself back on the lead lap.
But man, I still just looking at it of the drivers that are going to be battling for the championship. It's still one of those things of if we somehow get Carr as well as White up in there, Laneville, these drivers are kind of being drivers that could challenge the BJ McLeod guys for the championship. And it's been entertaining these last about 5 or 6 races, seeing other drivers coming in and really shaking up the foundation of where these drivers were in the middle part of this season.
Absolutely. And with the fact that we've got, you mentioned this earlier, Daytona coming up next week, such a wild card track. You could easily see a Jared Carr, a Matt White, a Tom Laneville. Some of these guys make their way into victory lane. And next thing we know, they're up there battling with the Heltons and the Santinis and the Longacres for race wins when we eventually get to the playoffs.
It's going to be a jackpot for sure for these drivers to see who can get in there and who can't. But it's going to be a fun one overall. And I can't wait to see how Daytona goes through. But first, we got to finish up this race with some interviews. And looking like some of these drivers are ready for interviews.
Looks like we will not be able to get third place finisher Jared Carr, so let's jump to second place finisher Logan Helton. Logan, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, I do.
Well, we saw you qualified on the pole for this race. You led the first half of this race. We know that you ran well here at Dover at the first stint, finishing second place. You finished second place here today. But talk about that last run there. It looked like you were putting up a bit of a challenge for Richard Reagan Jr. for that race win. Was it just a lack of grip, or was there something that, in terms of the handling of the race car, seemed to go away the longer the run went on?
Definitely for the beginning of the race, the car was a long run setup. That's what I've been practicing for all week. Definitely a long run, and it definitely worked out. But at the end there, I don't know what happened, but the 21 just got so much more speed. I don't know what he did. Maybe he made a really good adjustment under yellow or something. But yeah, he just came out of nowhere and wasn't expecting it. So uh, the run right before the last yellow came out, I was trying to see if I could push it hard and keep up with them. And whenever I would push it hard, it's just the back end would come around just because we set it up for long run. And that didn't work. So then this run, I tried to just stick with them and not try and pass them every time. And we made an adjustment for the final run, but it was just an over adjustment that made it too loose for me. So I don't know. It was kind of frustrating seeing I was that close, but at least I got kept second instead of third place.
Obviously there's a half a mile difference between Dover and Bristol, but one of the characteristics that kind of carries over between those two tracks is as the long run goes on, the tires wear down and the lap times really spread out in terms of their difference. The race leader ends up starting to catch up to traffic, and we saw you catching up to a lot of drivers that were on the tail end of the lead lap. Did you feel any difference in the way the car handled being in the dirty air of those slower machines?
I could tell that I was in dirty air, but it really wasn't more of a difference. Just it got slightly tighter. It wasn't. It. I didn't even have to really change the way I was driving. It was just enough for me to tell that there was a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, Logan, with the lap traffic that you guys were dealing with for most of this race, how was it trying to get through traffic? Did you feel like it was a hard time getting through, or was it pretty easy for yourself?
Well, throughout all the official races I did this week, it was pretty easy. They would all get out of the way pretty quick. But tonight, it just seemed like they were all putting up a fight, which I don't blame them for. It's just it was a little annoying about that as well. But I I can't blame them for putting up a fight to stay in the lead lap. It was just a little bit harder to deal with.
Now, Logan, I know obviously there have been quite a number of races here this season where we've had Soda Guys Cup Series drivers coming down, taking wins, and you finished second to them. But one thing that I've been noticing is that through the past couple of weeks, the 8 has been performing a lot better than the 99 in terms of finishing results. Now, I know that right now you're at a deficit to Santini, your teammate, in terms of playoff points, but does this give you confidence as we get closer to the playoffs, knowing that at this current point in time, the numbers are starting to tilt into your favor?
Yeah, it really does. I've been really because at the beginning of the season, I kind of just took it as a any other league, just maybe work on the setup a little bit throughout the week and just run and get what I get. And I kept that mindset. Like if I finished behind David, I knew that I could have done better. I just didn't put enough time. But ever since I got my 2 wins, I've been trying. I realized that I need to put more work into it. So I've just been putting more work and more time into practicing and trying to work with Jones Racing setups to get the setup better. And recently, I've been really confident that I know that I can put up a fight. And my goal so far has just been trying to finish ahead of David because I know that he's the next guy in points that I need to focus on.
Well, Logan, your first time out here at Dover, you started on the pole, you finished second. You mirror it here tonight, starting on the pole and finishing second place. Obviously, really good here at Dover, and you performed well all season long here at the Monster Mile. We're going to let you do some shout outs now.
Yeah, thanks to my team at BJ McLeod Motorsports, and a big shout out to Jones Racing Setups for the awesome setup tonight. Also, thanks to my sponsors, LKH Graphics, RGC Media, and East Bay Landscaping. Um, and thanks to the league sponsors of Rapid Fire Pizza, iRacing, iFlag, FSM Customs, Shorba's Racing Graphics, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns. And thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast and everyone at this league that lets us race every Friday.
That's Logan Helton. He finishes second place here tonight at Dover. Congrats on a great run and great momentum heading to what we're expecting is going to be a very interesting race next week at the Super Speedway of Daytona.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
And let's go down to Victory Lane where Richard Reagan Jr. is standing by. Richard, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
What's going on?
Well, we talked to you back in New Hampshire when you had a Soda Guys Cup Series win. You take the checkered flag here tonight at Dover in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, and we saw how your car was really good on the long run, but those late race cautions, did you have to make any kind of adjustments to get it ready for short run spurts?
Yeah, when we got that the third caution of the race, after we went, I don't know, like 40 laps green or something like that, I made a little bit of an adjustment, and then that last restart, I made more of that, and I went a little too much and started bottoming out the track bar, and that's why I popped the wall a few times. Which, luckily with the B car with the composite bodies, you can get away with it. But if that was a Cup car, that would have been night done.
One thing that Sam and I commented on was we see a lot of the Soda Guys Cup Series drivers come down here and run at a track that they're going to be at the following evening. You were the only one to take advantage of that. Do you think that gives you a little bit of an added edge for the Cup race tomorrow at Dover?
Possibly. The B car and the Cup car drive are really different. Not just because the aerodynamics and horsepower differences, but the front end differences. The shocks in the B car are a little weird, sort of say. So they definitely drive different. But Dover is one of my favorite tracks. I absolutely love Dover. So I just wanted to come out here and have some fun.
Yeah, I mean, Richard, we saw that you qualified back in 22nd place. You had to work your way through the whole entire pack. How was that going through traffic, and also when you were going through lap cars when you were in the lead?
Yeah, I didn't want to I didn't want to start up front because I didn't want to put myself in a bad spot or anyone else in a bad spot because I didn't really know how the car is going to handle in this weather because I haven't had much time to practice with this weather. I've been practicing a lot of the official stuff. So I just wanted to take it easy the first few laps, and we started coming up through the field, and yeah, we had a really good long run pace, which definitely paid off tonight. We had a long run beginning, and yeah, it was awesome.
Well, obviously, Richard, we saw that you were really good in the long run. You were good on the short run. You were really good as far as the restarts as well, controlling the acceleration and having a lot of space between yourself and the rest of the field behind you. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, for sure. First off, I got to thank my boy Boyd Hogan over at Bobby Dale and Heart Legacy Sports. He's always making me improve myself as a driver every week. He puts in a lot of time with me, and we're getting that Cup car rolling for tomorrow, so you guys better watch out. But yeah, I got to thank Butt Kicker, Abruzzi, Oculus Glasses, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Susan G. Coleman, Neonism Paints. If you want to paint, go to facebook.com/neonism. I got to thank everyone that watches, my mom, my dad, my aunt, everyone that tunes in. And if I'm forgetting anyone else, I'm sorry, but thank you.
That's Richard Reagan Jr. He takes the checkered flag here tonight in the National Series, the 21 Ford Mustang. Going to be interesting to see if you can do the same tomorrow night in that number 17 Mustang out of Rush Fenway Racing. We look forward to seeing what you can do there.
Thank you. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Justin for letting me drive the car tonight.
That's Richard Reagan Jr. as he continues to celebrate his victory here tonight. One thing that I was kind of thinking about in the back of my mind, Sam, as we were doing these driver interviews is this is an open setup league. We've got Daytona next week. Just how much can you tweak on a setup and make it different from everybody else when it comes to a super speedway?
I mean, it's setting up the gearing right for your car to really hook up when you're going through your gears and getting up to speed, as well as you can try to make it to where your car's running a lot smoother. I know at Daytona it's not as bumpy as Talladega can be, but you can still set it up to where it's a lot smoother. Your car's not going to be reacting and bumping too much. So there are little minute things that you can change that can make your car run a little bit faster there at Daytona.
Well, it should be a good one nonetheless, as these drivers, they'll be heading to the high banks of Daytona International Speedway next week for what's going to be the third to final race of the regular season. And we may see someone sneak out a wild card playoff victory at that 2.5 mile super speedway. Tomorrow night, as mentioned, we're going to have the Soda Guys Cup Series. They'll be back here at Dover International Speedway. 180 laps tonight. Add 20 on for the Cup race tomorrow. We'll have to see if that extra 20 laps is going to make a difference in terms of strategy, as it was 5 sets of tires for the national drivers tonight, 5 sets of tires tomorrow with that added 20 laps for the Cup drivers.
Yeah, and these drivers, it's going to be a lot of fun for tomorrow for them to see. We'll see if Richard Reagan Jr. can take the information that he got today. I know it can't really transfer all the information, but a little bit of your stuff here and there for tomorrow. I also want to give a shout out to Jacob Shorba, who was in the comment sections during our live streams, giving us some clarification on some stuff that was going on during the race. Thank you, Jacob, for all the hard work that you do for this league. And back to you, Seth.
Let's definitely appreciate that. We appreciate everybody that tuned into tonight's broadcast. We hope that you enjoyed it. And Sam, as always, I appreciate you joining me here in the booth.
It's always a pleasure there, Seth.
Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's race. We'll see you from Dover for the Soda Guys Cup Series tomorrow evening. Green flag scheduled to fly at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But for Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us this evening for yet another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.